if I'm to entertain, and forgive me for, but it is an important point, because sometimes we become very skeptical.
Okay.
You're not being skeptical with the fly at the moment.
Oh, no, certainly not.
But let's just say, for example, crossing the road.
Sure.
Am I correct to assume that you would look both ways before crossing the road?
Yeah, most times.
If someone was to take a swing at you, you would try to avoid it as much as possible. If you saw some filth or some feces on the ground, you would avoid it.
Yeah.
Doesn't that show to an objective observer that you not only believe that you exist, but the things around you exist as well? To a very high possibility.
Yeah, you see what does exist mean? Tell me.
Being conscious.
Being conscious. Does a rock exist?
Experiencing.
Does a rock exist?
The rock exists,
Is
yes.
it conscious?
I don't believe a rock is conscious, no.
So that's clearly not the right definition, right?
Not necessarily, because even in terms of conscious, there's different types of consciousness, isn't it? You've got certain consciousness that are present in cells, but we're not going to say that it's a human consciousness, do you see? So the more then you go into it, then we need to delve into philosophy. We need to look, for example, if you look at existence, there's three types of existence.
Sure.
There's an impossible existence, there's a contingent existence, and there's a necessary existence. Any philosophy you go into, even if you go to modal logic, that's how existence is classified.
Okay.
Yeah? Impossible existence is like a square circle. Dependent existence, pretty straightforward, if you depend on something else. In fact, the definition of dependency is something that's composed of parts, that can be any other way, and that can cease to exist. That's the philosophical definition of dependency. Something that's independent is the opposite of that. It's not composed of parts, can't be any other way, and cannot cease to exist. If I was to ask you a simple question, are you dependent or independent?
Dependent.
Then you're dependent on something else, correct? Then that's dependent on something else, that's dependent on something else. Naturally, the chain has to end somewhere, isn't it? Whether it's logically or whether it's rationally. Mathematically, of course, there are theories and there's pen to paper. I'm talking about reality and what's observed and experienced by us. There has to be an end to that chain. And I'll tell you by one simple analogy. If I was to, just before I throw a ball, I ask your permission. I haven't thrown it yet. Then I ask his permission, his permission, his permission, and it goes on for infinity. Would I ever get to throw the ball if it's just going on for infinity? There has to be an end to that chain for me to eventually throw the ball. So the fact that I've thrown the ball after I've said I've asked permission, that means somebody in that chain said, yes, there has to be an end to that chain. Because as soon as that chain ended, the ball was thrown. So the fact that you are here, you are living, you're dependent on something, it's irrational and absurd to believe that that chain can go on forever. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
And philosophically, I'm not going to theology at the moment. Philosophically, rationally, there has to be an end to that chain. That's called a necessary existence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can't exist. It's a paradox of sorts or a contradiction of sorts. You see?
Okay.
So philosophically now, there is a necessary existence. Now, you've got people that are, philosophers. Now the question would be, what is that end to that chain?
Guess you would say God, right?
Well, we would evidence that it's God. And I would tell you, and I can, using first principles, evidence that that is God.
Could you?
Yeah. For example, you accept that that necessary existence is independent, correct?
Yeah, I guess. It's
Because
just,
sure.
the problem I have is, how do you know this even exists? How do you know there is an end to the chain?
Because I'm saying philosophically, this is using metaphysics and rational, basic logic. That if something goes on forever, then how do you explain the dependencies regarding it? It doesn't make sense. In order to believe in an infinite regress, that it's called, you have to accept an absurdity that, there's an infinite regress, but we still exist. What are we depending upon? Upon an unlimited chain. Science falls apart, philosophy falls apart, logic falls apart. So I'm saying, logically, rationally, there has to be an end to that chain. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
See, I was.
You can push back if you want.
Oh no! Just please continue, because I was trying to think of some it's something that you do in maths, right? So I was trying to think I can. So. Okay, yeah. Please go on with.
No problem.
Yeah.
Even if somebody was to say, okay, infinite. There's infinite. The thing is infinite. That's why I gave that preface, because I know you're into maths. Yeah, mathematically, you even have minus numbers. That doesn't mean you go to the shop and you say, okay, can you give me -1 cake, please? Then you can do that.
Selling a cake, you know?
But then you could do, no, but using that number by saying, yeah, give me -1 cake, or give me infinity cake, or give me this
number, I guess.
Do you see? So it's not a number; it's a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we? So you're okay with the fact that this necessary existence, it makes sense that it's independent, correct?
Yeah.
Now I would argue, logically and rationally, it has to be powerful, because as dependent things, you depend for your power that which you depend upon. So what you depend upon has to have more power than you, because you're depending upon that thing, correct? So naturally, if you've got all of these dependent things, depending on this necessary existence logically, rationally has to have immeasurable power, because everything is depending upon it.
Why is that immeasurable?
Why is that?
Why is it immeasurable?
Because creation as we see it is immeasurable to us from an anthropocentric point of view.
Are you saying our universe is infinite?
No, I'm saying that from our observation, we don't know life, what's out there. So as from an anthropocentric sort of view, we're saying that the universe, from what we see, is dependent, whether it's stars, whether it's comets, whether it's particles, whether it's dark matter, dark energy. To us, whatever is out there is all dependent upon God, and I would argue
dependent maybe, but measurable, no?
Immeasurable.
Just measurable.
How do you measure it?
You can define one.
Break that down for me, because
you don't need a concrete kilograms or meters or whatever. But would you argue this universe is finite?
This universe, according to the science that we know, it's growing, isn't it?
It's constantly expanding, but not infinite. You see?
I agree, it's not infinite, but what I'm saying is immeasurable power, according to us. All of this argument is from us, anthropocentric point of view.
I know, but I am just arguing that it's not immeasurable.
Would you say, maybe it's the word immeasurable that's causing issues? Would you contend with that this being would have a great deal of power?
Sure, great deal of power.
So independence,
although finite.
Great deal of power.
Although finite, yeah.
Finite power.
Yeah. A great deal, but finite.
Why would you say it's finite if you're accepting that the universe is expanding?
Constantly growing, sure. It doesn't mean it's finite.
And
infinite.
And because we don't know what's outside of the universe, is there a possibility that there could be other places?
Sure, there's a possibility, but we don't know for sure. I think making a claim that it is infinite is a bit of a...
I didn't say infinite, I said immeasurable.
Immeasurable. You see, I take those things as the same thing. If you can't measure it,
I'll give you an example. If I look at this park, I would say for me, measuring the grass is immeasurable.
Yeah, okay.
You see?
Yeah, okay.
In that sense.
I guess it's just a misunderstanding of
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So, independence, would you say that design requires intelligence?
Most of the time.
What? Can you give me an example of times in which design wouldn't require intelligence?
Say, the cliffs, right? They've been worn down by the sea, and yet they are still beautiful.
How would you classify that design objectively?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it intelligent, sure.
Would you say, let's go with objective measures of design, like symmetry?
Symmetry, okay.
Symmetry, or the golden ratio, or Fibonacci's, Fibonacci spiral, etc., yeah? That's something as a mathematician you can understand.
Yeah,
you can measure as well.
This golden ratio business, I wouldn't say is a... Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, the 1.618, it's used by the Apple logo. It's used even by mobile phones. It's
So
used.
root 5 minus 1 over 2 or something.
Yeah, it comes down to 1.618.
Yeah.
And it's used even to kind of measure the beauty of human beings. It's used in logos. Some say Leonardo da Vinci even used it in the
it's the-
Vitruvian Man. Yeah. So something that you can measure. Would you say that it's the inference to the best explanation is design equals intelligence?
Perhaps the best explanation, but not the only one.
That's fine.
And not always the best explanation either.
Would you say it's the inference to the best explanation? If not, why not?
Well, it depends on what you're saying has that intelligent design. If it were an iPhone, sure. But if we're talking about us or our existence, then I don't think we can make the same inference, you know?
Wouldn't you say that we have the effects of design within us? Or do we look like random beings that have... Would you look at another human being and go, chance?
To an extent. To an extent, honestly, yeah, I would.
Break that down for me.
Right, like, we are not perfect beings. It's true. You know,
I'm not talking about perfection, I'm talking about design, outwardly designed.
Okay. I'm talking. If we were designed, our design would be more perfect than it is.
Let me refine it more further. I'm saying, looking at a human being, would you opt, when you see a human being, would you say design or would you say chance? What makes the most sense to you?
With my current knowledge, I would honestly say chance.
Chance, yeah? You say chance created the human being.
Bearing in mind that, if we just look at the brain alone and how complex that is, billions and billions of neurons working together, that's only one part of the human body. You know what I mean? Are you really gonna
So would you say chance created us?
I wouldn't say chance created us because
Chance formed us?
Chance is not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like randomness, I guess, yeah, sure. I would say there is a chance that we are here purely from randomness, just from, these infinitesimally small probabilities.
It's 1 in 10 to the power 30 and that's just for our planet being the way it is. That's not even looking at the probabilities of the smallest amino acid in our body and the probability and the chance of that coming together. Because even if you look at amino acids, the possibility of an amino acid, because they're like puzzle pieces, isn't it?
Yeah.
If one amino acid is a little bit off, then the whole amino acid is defunct. In fact, one of the elements that's necessary for our survival, the carbon element, that has to be within 1% of the nuclear ground state energy. Otherwise, for the 3 heliums to come together, they have to be within 1%.
In addition to
That's very, very specific.
Can I
That's
ask
been
you
finely
something?
tuned,
Can I ask
yes.
you something? How tall are you?
About 5'9".
5'9", but not exactly, right?
I haven't checked recently.
5'9.68".
If I check, I'd know exactly.
4'4", but you can't know exactly because it goes on forever.
Not necessarily,
How not necessarily?
because the question would be when is my height increasing or decreasing? So for that
Okay,
day,
it doesn't have to be about your height decreasing. Let's just take this stand, right?
yeah,
This is not going to change height. How tall is this stand?
if I measure it, maybe
So say 100, 120, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but it's not exactly 120, that's what I'm saying. It's 120.5924, etc. It goes on forever. It
Yeah.
will go on forever. Now, the chance of this mic stand being exactly that real number, the probability, it's 0. It's not above 0, it is 0. And yet, are you denying that it is that?
But the difference here is you don't apply that metric in any part of your rational and logical life. If somebody asks you your height, you won't say, what an absurd question, that number can't be measured. If somebody says, oh, how many kids do you have? What do you mean, how many kids do I have? That number is 2.01234.
No, the number of kids is 2 or 1, it can't be between.
Not necessarily, because the question would be, when do you define the age that it's a child and not a baby? Or a baby, not an adult? Where do you draw that line? In different countries, some will say
Oh, you're
puberty.
saying children is an offspring, no?
Well, I'm saying both. Some people will define children as when you pass a certain age. Some will say puberty. Some will say no, this isn't exactly. But we don't go about our lives living like that. By saying, you know what, I can't give my height, I can't give my weight, I can't give my preference.
That's what we
No,
give.
we live, and this is a process in science called abduction, the inference to the best explanation. That's all I'm saying. Because technically speaking, yes, you can be a skeptic when it comes to everything, yeah, but you'll accept that you exist, that there is existence. Hopefully, you go about your life living like that. If somebody comes to your home, you're not going to say, "Look, I know you want to rob me, but there's a possibility that I don't exist, so you might as well go off here."
Brother, what I'm...
Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I think me not letting the robber rob me, this is not me denying my existence or affirming my existence.
At that moment, you definitely believe you exist, and you definitely believe he exists. That's why you're trying to defend yourself.
Why is that the case?
Because
What do you mean by existence? Again, it's
okay, let's take a Cartesian way thinking.
thinking. Sure.
I think, therefore I am.
Prove it.
Are you not thinking?
I am thinking. Yeah.
Even
There you go. The fact that we're having a conversation, the fact that we're understanding our language,
Yeah,
the
problem
fact
is,
that you're
the problem
responding
I'm
to
having
me.
with that is that with that very statement, it's something people take for granted. I think, therefore I am. Have you ever thought why? Why is that the case? Where's the proof? Is there a proof?
The proof is the fact that you're responding to me, the fact that we're having an argument, well, not an argument, a discussion. Yeah. The fact that we're having a discussion, the fact that we're waiting for the other person to finish and we're, articulating what we want to say based upon what the person's saying. Do you not think that's enough proof
that same logic-
Do you not think that that's enough proof that you're thinking? Is that not good enough
That's
proof?
that I am thinking, sure. But
Okay.
that's not proof that I exist. By that same logic, I could say, I speak, therefore I exist.
I think that's a fair argument.
You see, I don't.
On what basis, though?
Well, prove it's true. Prove to me it's true.
Well, it's a metric, isn't it?
How so?
Why speaking is a metric?
No, are we defining, are you saying that we define our existence based on whether we can think? Because if that is the case, that's sure.
Not necessarily. What I'm saying is existence fundamentally is axiomatic.
Could you explain?
Yeah, axiomatic. Just like, for example, if a person looks at number one
Yeah,
in
I
mathematics.
know what axioms are, but what are the axioms of existence?
Axiomatic means that you can't, well, one of the definitions would be that you can't go on living your life, you can't do the most fundamental things if you don't believe you exist. You won't be able to procreate, you won't be able to eat, you won't drink. Your existence would be a fallacy incarnate. The fact that you exist. Yes, indeed, some people can say, well, I don't really exist. Well, that person is just asking to get kicked in the head. Because if you don't exist, then you don't deserve that jumper. I'll take that. So I believe I exist. I'll take those. I'll take those shoes. I'll take your money. I'll take your house. Because frankly, in London, it's very difficult to survive. So if you don't exist, I believe I exist. So I might as well take your house.
Yeah, the thing is, you're saying this is it axiomatic?
Do you see where I'm coming from?
I do understand where you're coming from, but I'm struggling to see how you can know that that's the case, because you're talking about this axiomatic theory of existence, right? Is that what you said?
The fact that you even did a course on mathematics,
Sure.
you have to accept that you exist.
Okay, but let's talk about the axiomatic.
Yes.
By what I understand about that word, axiomatic means there are set axioms that this theory is built on.
No.
For example, axiomatic set theory. That's what it is with that.
So axiomatic in the sense that we have to accept that that thing exists or that thing is there for us to progress. Because otherwise there's going to be an infinite regress. You can say, oh, what's existence? Okay, it's communication. Okay, what's communication? It goes on forever.
We have to accept
so
that
philosophers,
we exist to progress. Sure.
We have to progress in any facet of life, whether it's science, whether it's mathematics, whether it's morals, whether it's ethics, whether it's communication.
We have to accept
in anything.
we exist.
It's a fundamental. Because if you say I don't exist,
I can completely agree with that. But again, this doesn't prove that we don't exist. It just proves that we have to think we exist to progress. That doesn't mean we actually exist.
No, but when you say proof, what do you regard as proof?
Well,
because Descartes gave the answer thinking, you're saying, oh, why is that the criteria? But that can go on forever then. Why is anything the criteria? Why is maths the criteria?
This is exactly why I am agnostic. You see, with maths, we have set axioms that everything is built upon.
Not necessarily. Why are those axioms set?
Because
why is that acceptable?
Because we chose them.
Why?
Because they work, and they work unbelievably
Do they work
well.
all of the time?
Not all of the time. We had
Then
to
why
fix
do we
it.
accept
We had
them?
to fix it.
No, why
And now
though?
it works.
Why?
And
Why?
now it works all the time.
Why?
Why? What do you mean why?
Why have we fixed those ones if they don't work all of the time?
No, we
why
fixed the ones that didn't work
Why
because they were
why
broken,
can't we
and then
just go on living life without mathematics because we can't pin anything down? Why can't we just go about it, ignoring it, pushing it to the side, and thinking it doesn't exist because we can't pin it down? Why?
We have pinned it down.
We haven't, because you said yourself what we have
No, no,
pinned
no, no,
down
no, we
is
had-
not
we-
precise.
We had a like the traditional theory that we had like 100, 200 years ago was not precise. But since then we fixed it because there were.
How do we
you
know?
like Russell's paradox, all that stuff.
How do we know that
No,
in
those
100
are
years?
things.
How do we know in 100 years' time we're not going to fix this?
We don't.
Exactly. So
can't-
how can you say you pinned it down when we don't know?
Sure, we don't know.
Then why can't we put maths to the side? Why can't we discard it when
Because it works,
we don't know?
It works really nicely. That's quite frankly the answer, because it just works too conveniently and it'd be too much to lose.
Would you say science works very conveniently as well?
Not necessarily, no.
In what sense?
Science is tricky, isn't it?
Science is tricky, but the water cycle doesn't work very well.
Oh, that works well.
The fact that we are breathing oxygen, the fact that we are Homo sapiens, that we require water, we require oxygen.
Yeah, like is requiring water convenient?
Yes, because if we don't drink water, we die.
But what if we were just
If-
created that we didn't have to drink water? That'd
Then
be more convenient.
then you would die in 4 days.
no, but
you
if
can't
we were
survive-
Created, if we were created in
You
a way
can't
where
listen.
we
Listen.
didn't need it.
You can't survive without water for 4 days. It's not something that you can be agnostic about. If you
No,
don't,
I understand.
if
but
you
I'm
don't,
saying-
if you don't drink water, it's like existence or life or your body doesn't care about what you believe, what you don't believe. You are going to die.
I absolutely agree with you, but I'm saying the fact that we need to drink water to survive is it's not inconvenient.
The fact that we need, that's besides the point. I'm saying us drinking water has been told to us from science.
Yeah, okay,
Science
sure,
tells us
sure.
beyond 4 days you're going to die, therefore you drink water. Then science will proceed in saying this is how much your body needs, because your body is approximately 70% water anyway for the reactions to take place. Science tells us about sunset, tells us what the sun is, tells us about air, tells us how to survive, how not to survive. Wouldn't you say that there's a degree of precision in science?
Sure, there's a degree, yeah.
But of course we can't take it certainly. Just like mathematics,
Yeah.
there's a degree of certainty. That's why at the beginning of the conversation I said the inference to the best explanation. Inferring based upon our experience. Like you said, it works. Mathematics works based on what?
Our axioms.
Our axioms, in other words, our experience. Our
No, not
anthropocentric,
really. It's what we've invented.
what
Well, I
we've
guess
invented.
someone would argue we've discovered, but sure, it's
can't
not
know.
from experience.
Well, we can get into whether numbers, where 1 + 1 = 2.
Okay, is
Yeah.
1 + 0 = 1? Is that something we have got from experience?
I'll give you an example. 1 + 1 = 2. Would it be 2 if there's no human beings around to work that out?
It's a good question. It's a really good question.
That's what I'm saying, that
I
goes
can't
in-
answer that, but I believe.
That's
yes,
because it goes into the realm of philosophy. That's what I'm saying. Then we go into a different form of questioning. What I'm saying is quite simply, you don't go about your life questioning mathematics. You don't question, for example, oh, that bus is going on the road. There is a possibility that there is no petrol or diesel in there or electricity in there. It could actually be on fairy dust. But you don't go about your life thinking or believing that, do you?
No.
Yeah. So
I
that's
could.
you could, but you don't. So what I'm saying is that when you look at what's around you, when you look at existence, yeah. When you see a canvas, you believe that there is a painter. When you see a ship, you believe that there is a sailor. Yeah. But when you see the world, you say it just came by itself. But most likely, I'm telling you, from our experience, the complexity that the world has, the chances of it coming by itself is infinitesimal. The inference to the best
Well, not
explanation, the inference to the best explanation is that there was a creator, based upon the argument that I said.
How have you done this?
Based
This
upon the
also-
initial argument that I said, that if we take the metrics of deduction, philosophy, logical reasoning, and we say if we're dependent and we depend on something else that depends on something else, we eventually get to a necessary existence.
So could you give me a probability of you being right? Is that something you can do?
In terms of what? Why does the... when you say probability, are you talking about in terms of numbers?
Yeah, like 60%.
I'd say 99.9999999. I would actually argue, not even 99.99, I would argue 100%.
But you said mine is infinitesimally small.
Minus what?
You said that the chance of me being right is infinitesimally small.
Of you being right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although not 0.
Yeah.
So you can't be 100.
No, that's because I was just trying to be polite. But now, because you pinned me down on it, I'll say 0. If you pin me down on it.
You see, this is where I would just disagree.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm building the argument.
We can do this. We can do the computations. What are the chances of you say of Earth being right? It's 1 in 30 million, right?
Let me just fix this point, because I think eventually we're going to come back to this original point anyway. Yeah. So it helps if I've built that foundation. Then you can critique it as much as you want. Yeah. So philosophically, there's a necessary existence. It's independent. I would also argue, and it has power. I would also argue that it has will also.
Why so?
Reason being, because the fact that we were created in one time and not another time indicates that a choice was being made. Also, when we say that the necessary existence that is also independent formed creation, we're saying it was coerced by something else, which again is illogical if we believe that that necessary existence is independent, has power. So the logical inference is there's will also.
Why? Well, like, look,
because if it didn't have will, then who told it to create us at what time? Why?
like if my dog knocked down a bulb and then it hit like a button that was conveniently there, which turned on my computer, did my dog will to turn the computer on?
Your dog is a dependent. Your dog...
No, but it doesn't matter if
it does. I'll tell you why. Because here we're talking about the 3 types of existences. Yeah? And we've accepted that there is a necessary existence. Your dog, it relies on multiple factors. And if you're of the philosophical school of thought of determinism, you don't believe your dog has any free will whatsoever. So again, we'll have to go into whether there is free will or not. But let's just
have to. I want to speak to you about this.
We could do. As Muslims, we believe in compatibilism. Yeah, but over here, a necessary existence, there's nothing preceding it. There's like everything depends upon it. So if it is making the choice of forming something at one time and not another, and forming dependent things that are composed of parts that can be any other way, that means a choice is being made. Let's put these parts here. Because that's not befitting of something that is intelligent, and we believe that.
We don't know it's intelligent.
I'm saying the logic to the best inference is that it is intelligent.
Again, it's just an inference, though, no?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All of this is an inference. Is an inference.
So then how could you be 100%?
Because of compounded evidence. At the moment, I'm just telling you the philosophical argument. Okay. If I then go into further, if I go into scripture, then I go into prophecies, then I talk about numerical evidences, then I talk about, for example, peer-reviewed evidence and this and that. I'm saying if you amalgamate all of that and you scaffold all of that, I'd say it's 100%.
If it's 100%, then how is it a belief?
Say that again?
It's 100%, then how is it a belief?
Because I haven't seen God.
Well, you know he exists for sure.
Yeah. So that's definitions, isn't it? Oh, belief technically is if you've seen that thing, you haven't seen it, therefore, well, okay, then if I take that definition, okay. But belief, according to Muslims, is that's why when a person accepts Islam, they testify.
See, but for me...
But how can you testify if you haven't seen something? Because for us, you're only testifying when you are in absolute no doubt that that thing exists.
But belief requires faith, no? Faith in, like, unknown.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that faith upon the unknown, what is that relying upon? Is that relying upon evidences that are strong, that are solid?
I don't necessarily think so. It's just that if you know for sure.
No, but you haven't heard the evidences yet.
No, I haven't.
That's why I'm saying that. When I tell you, as much as I can, of course, the evidences, hopefully you'll understand and you'll realize that, look, there are evidences, whether it comes to prophethood, whether it comes to the Quran, whether it comes to philosophy, rationality, whether it comes to even our experience, whether it comes to objective design. If you amalgamate and put them all together, it's 100%.
100%. It's a bold claim.
Of course. Of course it is. Okay. Just like it's a bold claim when people say, yes, everything, all of this design and these wonderful trees and the symmetrical buds and the golden ratio that we see, even in the sunflower seeds inside the sunflower, yeah, chance. I think that's a bold claim.
To say for sure, yeah, of course.
You see?
Yeah.
So they're both bold claims and both need to provide evidence. But just like people accuse theists of believing God of the gaps, which I don't pretend to, I would say a lot of atheists and agnostics fall into chance of the gaps as well. When they don't understand something, chance.
Oh, yeah, for sure, I know.
So, sorry, I forgot your name?
Jai.
Jai?
Yeah, J-A-I, yeah.
Oh, Jai.
Yeah, but it's pronounced Jai. I don't know. My parents are just.
It's an Indian name, no?
Yeah, but like I'm not Indian at all. My parents just chose it.
Well, it's a very what's the word? Tropical name.
And what's your name?
Zishan.
Zishan.
Nice to meet you, Jay.
Nice to
Okay,
meet you.
Jai. Do I have to say Jai or Jay? What do you prefer?
Please try. But Jai.
Jai.
If you
Okay.
insist, you can say.
No,
Jai.
I'm not going to. I can remember Jai because it rhymes with chai,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we love chai, which is tea. So
I know Jai.
using that memory association technique. Okay, so coming back to this point. So I would say out of the three bold claims, all of this came by chance. Well, all of it came from nothing. All of it came from a creator. I would say out of these three, the one that makes the most sense, whether it's experientially, whether it's philosophically, whether it's rationally or logically, I would say coming from a creator makes the most sense.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Plus the Quran as well.
And then,
Quran.
Plus the Quran tells us.
yeah, which we're going to go into. We're going to go into. So even if we progress this further, the argument of will, again, this is a Ghazalian argument, which says that if you see a block which is blue, white, blue, the fact that there is a block that uses the same shapes and it has colors in it, that means a concerted effort, a choice has been made into firstly selecting the shape and secondly selecting the colors. And even if a person says design, if an explosion was to happen, Jai, let's be honest, never in my experience, and maybe you can correct me, when an explosion happens, no one goes, yes, we're going to find some new creation there, we're going to find some new object or some new art there. I haven't come across a single person that's ever said that.
When I was blowing up blocks in Minecraft with TNT, I was looking for diamonds.
Yeah, but Minecraft has a programmer, isn't it? I know, I'm joking as well, yeah. So what I'm saying is that when people say that all of this that you see came from an explosion, but it was a special explosion. Oh, wow, a special explosion. Okay, can you please elaborate? Oh, well, there were certain particles there. Were they magical particles? Oh, I guess so.
It's a belief just as yours is as well.
Yeah. So, but again, that's taken as fact. And people, that's preached in schools.
I don't think it's taken as fact.
It is because in science, the way it's propagated, the way it's kind of taken is, it's reached such a high level of theory that in science that's pretty much taken as fact.
Well, it's still,
according to the scientific definition.
As a theory.
Well, it's
there are
called.
Things that have like been discovered that are contingent on it, sure, but it's still unproven, isn't it? It's still just a theory.
Well, that again is a different school of thought in science. Certain people will say, like for example, Richard Dawkins, he'll say evolution is a fact. Bertrand Russell about physics, he again was a philosopher. He said, what we know about physics, Newtonian physics, is a fact. We need to move on now. That's it. We're done. But then Einsteinian physics came and turned science on its head.
Well, Newtonian physics still applies for most things.
It applies on the macro level, not at the micro level. So in that sense, well, that's what it was, isn't it? What was the last thing that I was saying?
Newtonian physics.
Before that?
Maybe free will?
Big Bang, yeah?
Big Bang.
So you have an explosion that happens. You believe somewhat in the Big Bang, correct?
Somewhat, yeah.
So trees came from the Big Bang. Grass came from the Big Bang. You came from the Big Bang. Your eyes. There's even golden ratio on your face, the symmetry on your face as well. The fact that, you're able to survive. Your heart beats 100,000 times a day. There's an average life expectancy of a human being to live 60 to 70 years. On average, generally
Bit
speaking.
higher here, I think.
Yeah, 60 to 70 years.